Good morning, James. I'm Jo Moore-Grew, and I'm the Group Operations Director here at HBXL. I'm here today talking with James, who is a practice accountant at Comera and professional, and he provides, and the team there, should I say, and provide a range of financial services to small to medium companies such as building firms. So firstly, welcome, James, and thank you for joining me today.
My pleasure.
Great. So it's a really topical and perhaps kind of detailed conversation we're going to have today, which is the second in a number of broadcasts that we're hosting, which is all about supporting small building firms during the coronavirus crisis and the challenging times that lots of building firms are going through. Like many firms. And over the next few weeks, we're hoping to host more sessions like this to help point building firms in the right direction so that they come out of lockdown equipped for the future and the opportunities that are no doubt going to emerge. It's not all doom and gloom. So from the HBXL side, as I say, we're all about supporting builders, and it's really important for builders to get their ducks lined up so they're thinking strategies about how to get through the pandemic and out the other side. From the Comera professional perspective, they've joined our trusted professional partner network. As I've said, we've got tons to talk about today, so kind of people watching, bear with us. There's lots of good stuff here. I know accounting and finance is a dry old subject, but hopefully we'll make it as interesting as possible. And I recommend you jot a few notes down as you go, because there's lots of pointers here today. But don't worry, if it's all a bit much, you can speak to James directly off the back of this session. You can have a complimentary 1 hour with James, or longer, I guess, if you need to get to the bottom of what's going on in your business from a financial perspective, and how he can help you with strategies for both gaining the government support that we're going to outline in a minute, but also just generally with your business finances and how you run things. So we're going to split the session to two because we've got lots to cover over the course of the next hour. And part one is James's recommendations on the government support that's available to building firms. So some of you might be going through quite a tough time right now, and it's quite confusing, all the different things that are available. You know, every time we put the news on or look at the web and headlines, it's like, wow, there's lots going on, but is it really relevant to your business and how importantly you access it? So James got all the lowdown on that in part one, and part two, I guess, is more about how you redesign the business, perhaps take a moment to think about the business during this kind of slightly tricky, bumpy phase we're all going through, and work out how to run the most profitable, thriving business out the other end, and some of the steps you can take. So I've had a monologue introducing all of this. So we're going to go and talk to James in more detail on his recommendations for the kind of damage limitation side within the business. And I must say, every so often, I'm going to give a shameless plug to Estimator Express, the estimating software that can help you when quoting for your building projects, and getting things costed right, getting the profit and overhead right. Obviously, today, things are going to cost a little bit more. Materials are taking longer to arrive. So things are just a little bit more expensive to build. So Estimator Express is going to help you with that. And other shameless plug is Construction Industry Accounts, the accounting software that can help you, get your business in order. So, James, run us through the support that's available for businesses. Whatever you think about, current government, there's lots out there, I think, to help businesses right now, but maybe a little bit confusing. So, let's take, if I may, furloughing staff and the coronavirus job retention scheme. So firstly, what the heck does furlough mean? It's a new word to everybody in the UK. Furlough, what does it mean?
It's definitely a word whose time has come. It did previously exist, was a concept which nobody really needed to be aware of. It's very similar to the old expression to be laid off, where you're temporarily, you're not removed from the company as an employee, you're still on their books, but essentially you're not working for the company and you're not being paid.
Yeah.
So it's kind of almost a temporary downtime. What's changed this time around, which makes it a fantastic benefit, because it's not only good for employees, it's good for businesses as well.
Yeah.
One of the schemes that covers very much at both ends,
Mm-hmm.
is you can furlough your staff during the coronavirus situation, continue to pay them, so they'll still be able to go out and afford food and necessary items, and then claim those wages back from the government as a grant to your business. It is claimed at a capped amount. At the moment, it's 80% of monthly wages with a maximum of £2,500.
Okay.
And it is important to note that that is a pre-tax figure.
Okay.
So an employee who is furloughed and receiving that payment will still pay income tax and national insurance through PAYE as normal.
Okay, and can they work? Can these people work that are being paid this grant, this kind of bursary?
No, they've been very clear that if you are being furloughed, you have to be furloughed. You can't work at all. They were very specific, saying even an hour of work is not allowed.
Yeah.
There are certain provisions if you want to, or if your employees want to do training in that time. It has to be optional. Like, you can't make your employees go through training at that point, but if they choose to off their own backs, that's generally okay.
Okay. Right. Yeah.
And the furlough.
So directors. Sorry, I'm interrupting you there. Sorry, carry on, Dave.
I was going to say it's up to 3-week periods at a time.
Yeah.
And the plan is that this will hopefully, we're waiting for definite news on this, hopefully be extended to September.
Right. Okay. As far out as that?
Potentially, yes. Although if that happens, there's also the possibility they may reduce the amounts down to 60% from 80%.
So it's worth builders, because I know, I mean, it's been around for, for a number of weeks now, and I guess we're perhaps slightly later discussing this. Some businesses may already be taking benefit from this, but if they haven't, it's worth considering this now, because
Yes.
there is some longevity to it. So is it currently to the end of June? Is that the situation?
Yes.
We speak here on the 12th, so we're talking on the 14th of May here. So 14th of May, it's still to the end of June, but potential to September.
Yes, so if you're planning on taking advantage of it, this is certainly a good time, because in the future it may be a lower amount, or it may have different conditions attached to it.
All right. And when I was rudely interrupting you there, I was going to ask about company directors, because I know a lot of our building firms, there'll be company directors, perhaps husband and wife, or father and son company directors. Can you furlough a director?
Yes, although there are a couple of conditions on what can actually be claimed for. The same rules apply with regards to working. I know directors want to be working on their companies, but unfortunately, if you're furloughed, you pretty much have to just put your feet up and go for a rest.
Yeah.
Although there are provisions in this case for small admin tasks that are required to just keep the business running at a simple minimum level.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, no revenue activities, no sales activities, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
You can also only claim for your salary amount as a director. Now, many limited company directors pay themselves a mixture of salary and dividends, or just dividends.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, dividend amounts cannot be claimed for. It's only the salary that you pay yourself, and again, up to the 80%, £2,500 limit.
Okay, right. So, how does a firm go about accessing this, and how quickly is the money turned round in terms of it landing with the builder?
Fairly quickly. The application process is done through gov.uk. For more details, I can happily provide that to anyone individual, because it's a lengthy web address that you need to type in.
Okay.
So we can certainly share that if we at the end of the call if we need to.
Okay, all right. So it sounds like it's relatively straightforward, and money lands within a few days of the application.
Yes, yeah, we've used it at Comera as well.
Okay.
It has been extremely helpful.
Okay, right. So VAT payments. Now, I know some builders may be paying their VAT monthly, some may be quarterly. What's the situation with that? Because a VAT payment is often quite a chunky payment, and I think people are going to have dread when their next VAT payment is due.
Yeah, it's not a lot of fun to deal with.
No, and obviously HMRC have traditionally frowned on a VAT payment delay. So, what can be done with that? What's the current government perspective on things?
If you have a so as you say, VAT payments could be quarterly or monthly. Essentially, any payment that would be due between between March and June under normal circumstances can be deferred. Unfortunately, it is a deferral. It's not a relief. You have to pay it eventually.
Yeah.
The deadline for all payments will be March 2021.
Okay.
The good thing is you don't actually have to do anything to claim this deferral. You don't have to contact HMRC. They know that this is a thing. So if they don't receive a payment from you that was meant to be due in that period, they'll know why.
Okay.
They aren't going to go chasing you. We are advising the companies only use this if necessary, simply for the reason that, as I say, you will have to pay it eventually. And if you can pay it now, it's better to pay it now and get it dealt with than have to make 2 payments next year.
Yeah, sure.
However, if it's something that you need to use, then absolutely use it.
Okay. What happens if you've got a direct debit with your VAT?
You can just cancel it.
Just cancel it.
Yeah, HMRC are prepared for the payments not to be arriving. They're aware of what's happening and why.
Yeah, sure. All right. So make sure that you do that in good time, because I guess that VAT payment, the direct debit payment for your VAT, it could be a good, week, 10 days out, and you need to be thinking well ahead to cancel it. Don't think you can do it like the night before or whatever, because the funds will go.
Yeah.
Okay. Be ahead of the game on that.
It does highlight a best practice point, actually. I've always felt that VAT money, where possible, should be ring-fenced anyway by a company. However, that's not always possible. Cash flow is always difficult. Yes.
Okay. So the self-assessments side of things, perhaps you could, expand on that for me. So we've covered off furlough and the coronavirus job retention. We've covered off VAT. Self-assessments, what's the story with that at the moment?
Yeah, so generally you would have 2 self-assessment payments in the year, one in January, one in July. Mm-hmm. In January you would pay, so your annual bill comes in 2 payments on account, as it were. Mm-hmm. In January you would normally pay the first payment on account and any money that's left over from the prior year, so a balancing payments. And then in July, pardon me, you would pay your second payment on account. Now, your January payments on account should have gone out by now. If they haven't, then you really need to catch up. However, your July payment on account, which is kind of looming around the corner, can now be delayed in the same way that the VAT payments are delayed.
Okay.
So again, it's not something you need to get on the phone to HMRC about. They're aware of this. They know it's going to be happening. They know the payments won't be coming through.
Okay.
And then you can delay that payment through to January 2021.
Okay.
Similar to VAT, though, we're advising that if you are able to pay, then we'd certainly suggest doing it if you can, because otherwise you are going to have 2 payments on account and the balancing payment all in one go.
It's going to be looming a big grey cloud over 2021.
We are privately hoping that some provisions will be made next year to simply allow all of these deferred payments to be potentially spread out or make some further deferrals, but that's only something we'd like to happen right now. Nothing has come from HMRC saying that will be the case.
I guess that will emerge later this year.
Yeah, please don't take that as a definite. We're hoping it will happen, and it will be a great release for a lot of people, I'm sure.
Yes, indeed. So I guess that links to kind of time to pay on things like PAYE and other tax bills right now. So time to pay is the HMRC's kind of description for repayment schemes, effectively, of any VAT. It's not VAT bill, sorry, a PAYE and other similar tax bills. So I think the clue is in the name in terms of time to pay. But perhaps you could tell us a little bit more about that.
So time to pay is when you have a bespoke arrangement of HMRC. So it's not something we can give too much detail on here, simply because it is agreed on an individual basis. But it's for use when you are really struggling with a tax bill. HMRC, obviously, they would rather receive the tax over a longer period of time than not receive it at all.
Yeah.
So they are willing to speak to people, especially at the moment. They are very open to talking to people who are struggling because of the current situation. They know what's going on. Ultimately, we are all in the same position. For that one, it is something that you would need to contact HMRC for, because of course they'll need to sit down with you and say, right, how are we going to do this? What's our approach? How can you pay us the money over time?
Mm-hmm. And who can do that within the business? Who can
generally, I mean, in theory, anybody could do it. However, it's really the realm of the directors, the boss of the company. If you have a finance director or a chief financial officer or even a specialist accountant, probably best for them to deal with the technical details, but ultimately it is the business owner's responsibility to make taxes paid one way or another.
So maybe a joint call.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So the next point I was going to ask about, and I had a little bit of confusion my side, I must admit. So it's this business rates relief, and there's been this kind of big fanfare about retail, hospitality, and leisure businesses paying no business rates. Obviously, they're massively impacted. You know, they literally are completely shut down. So I thought, oh, that's maybe not so relevant to SME building firms, small building firms. But I wasn't correct on that thinking, I don't think. So could you kind of tell me more about that and where I was wrong?
Mm-hmm, absolutely. So essentially there are two different reliefs at play here. One is specific to retail, hospitality and leisure. So they're getting a nice little bonus of just no business rates, and they're getting an enhanced grant for the smallest companies.
Yeah.
But there is another business rates relief grant currently available, which is available to any industry. Mm-hmm. So it would be relevant for SME builders in the construction industry. Okay. And that is a grant of £10,000.
Yeah.
And that is available to any business that has a rateable value of 15k or below. So it is aimed at the smallest companies. So it'll be relevant if you have a small office space or a small yard, anything that you pay business rates on, essentially. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, it probably won't be so relevant to people who are maybe working from home or have a home office, because they don't generally pay business rates.
Yeah, yeah.
So make sure that's something that you are aware of. If you
is that like a flat? Is that a flat grant? So they're not looking at what business rates you're paying. They're saying if you are paying business rates and you're in this category of small business with premises, this is a grant direct to you.
Yeah, it's just a flat. If you're below 15k rateable value, then you receive the grant.
Okay.
And the councils, they are taking the lead on making contacts.
Okay.
There are eligibility checks, I believe, online, again, gov.uk and local council websites, but they should be contacting you if you are eligible for it.
Yeah. And what's sorry.
I think it might be the same point. You asked before about companies who are doing shared premises. In that case, it's generally we'll say it's between yourselves and the landlord. Because what usually happens in that situation, if you have multiple companies sharing a single space, is that the landlord of the building will be in charge of paying the rates to the council, so they have the legal agreement there, and then they'll pass that cost on to the businesses in the premises, generally on an apportioned basis. So if you have a quarter of the premises, you'll pay a quarter of the rates.
Okay.
From a legal standpoint, as far as I'm aware, unfortunately there is no kind of legal contract between you and the council to receive the grant, because it goes to the landlord. However, since they're charging you for the costs, you should be able to go to them and say, look, we're paying these rates. Ultimately, we should be entitled to a part of the grants coming back.
Okay.
So we'd say in that instance, definitely speak to your landlord, check your contracts, make sure you're aware of what your legal rights are.
Okay, right. Which leads me to one of the things that I guess I was more excited by, I guess, for the support for small builders. So the job retention scheme is up there as kind of one of, number one. I can imagine that delay is going to be really, really helpful, and bounce back loans. And I think those kind of combined, are a really good package, I guess, for small builders. So the bounce back loans, they were announced, was it last week or the week before? So
week before last, I think.
They're a recent addition. And I understand that smaller businesses can access funding, where we'll talk in a minute about the slightly larger firm, the business interruption loan scheme.
Yes. Sometimes
kind of referred to as SIBL, but the bounce back loans, they sound more fun just for a start. Bounce back, I want to bounce back. So let's have a bit more info on that, and how can the bounce back loans help the small building firm who might be struggling right this second?
Yeah, absolutely. So you're absolutely right to say it was. I mean, the bounce back loans really were a response to perceived shortcomings in the coronavirus business interruption loan scheme, which we'll talk about in more detail in a moment. It essentially is a commercial loan that you go to a lender for, and although in theory they were supposed to be fairly readily available for companies who needed them, in practice it wasn't quite the case.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So bounce back loan was a response to that.
Okay.
The details of the terms are that you can borrow between £2,000 and a maximum of £50,000.
Yeah.
Although the actual amount you specifically borrow is 25% of your turnover.
So is it limited? So it's limited to 25%
yes.
of turnover. Yeah.
Yes. It's 25% of turnover or 50k, whichever is.
Okay.
So if you had a £100,000 of turnover, you borrow 25k.
Okay. Yeah.
It is interest free for the first 12 months. After that, it attracts a fixed interest rate, which I understand is 2.5%, which is quite a good rate.
Yes.
For what is effectively a commercial loan.
And the 0% today is really good, because if people have got cash flow issues, you don't want to be straight away paying out this interest to learn. You need every penny of that borrowing, really.
Oh, very much so,
yeah.
So getting that first 12 months of not having to pay any extra is very, very useful.
Yeah.
The standard terms for it are it's a 6-year repayment period, but you can repay it early.
Yeah.
So if you find you only need it for a year, you can borrow it, pay no interest, and pay it back at no extra cost.
So there's no penalties for the repayment?
No.
Great.
It is very much designed to help during this period, but of course not every company will be able to repay it straight away. So they have allowed for 6-year repayments, although in that case it would attract interest.
Yeah, and that obviously nicely phases it out over time, because I guess the worry is today that people don't know how quickly business is going to pick back up. One thing that I've heard talking to the smaller building firms, what have you, is really the big concern about the coronavirus business interruption loan scheme was the personal guarantees. And at a time where there's a lot of risk anyway, they don't want to put their homes up as a personal guarantee.
Absolutely.
Any other equipment or office, their office and so on. So does the bounce back loan require a personal guarantee?
No, it does not.
Okay.
It's only available if your business has been adversely affected by coronavirus, but let's face it, that's
pretty much most businesses in the land. Yes. Okay. All right. And are there any other caveats at all around that?
It has to be a UK-based business.
Yeah.
Has to have been established before 1st of March 2020.
Yeah.
It's also worth remembering that this is a loan rather than a grant. Like the business rates relief was a grant, so you get it and keep it.
Yeah.
It is a loan. You do have to pay it back.
Okay. Yeah.
It's being offered through commercial lenders, although it is 100% backed by the government, so there is no risk to the lender.
Okay. So most of the big banks then will, who a lot of our customers will be banking with anyway. So I guess first port of call is talk to your existing bank. If not, where would they go to find out more? Talk to you, of course.
Talk to us. I mean, we're not a lender ourselves, but we can certainly point you in the right direction. To find a relevant lender, you can go on gov.uk, and again, I can kind of share the specific web address to anyone who needs it.
Yeah.
There are currently 11 banks taking part in the scheme. They're all
okay.
I've heard of. If you go on gov.uk, from there you can find a lender sort of in your area who's relevant to you and will be able to help you.
Okay, lovely. So we've kind of shied away from the coronavirus business interruption loan scheme, and as I was referring to that earlier as CBIL. So I know that's not been taken up as quickly or enthusiastically, I guess, as the government planned. But you can borrow more under this scheme, yes. I take it. So, what's the kind of max loan amount that you can borrow on this then?
The most you can do is 5 million.
Okay.
Again, that's issued for a commercial lender. It is also guaranteed by the government, the British Business Bank. It's guaranteed up to 80% in this case rather than 100%. So there is an element of risk to the lender, but not as much as a normal loan, which obviously wouldn't be guaranteed at all.
Yeah.
So even in the absolute worst case scenario, if a company can't repay it, they'll be able to then reclaim 80% of the amount that they lent you from the government. So it's a good incentive for banks to be able to lend to companies they may not have wanted to previously.
Yeah.
It is also, it's interest and fee free, although it's more accurate to say that the government will give you the money to pay the interest and the fees.
Okay. All right. So tell me.
That's 12 months again, sorry.
Okay. Oh, okay. So for the first 12 months,
interest and fee free.
Interest and fee free. Okay. So back to my point where I was talking about the bounce back loans, are personal guarantees required for the CBIL loans?
Originally they were, but that caused a lot of worry and stress to people for reasons which I'm sure you can understand. As you say, no one wants to put their home up.
Yeah.
So they have now changed the rules on that. So if the loan is up to 250,000, then no personal guarantee is required.
Well, that's a relief, isn't it?
It's very much so, yes.
Yes. Okay.
If you're borrowing over that amount, so anything from 251k up to the maximum of 5 million, you will need to put down a personal guarantee, but that is capped at 20% of the amount of the loan.
Okay, all right.
If you borrow the full amount, you're not necessarily going to be liable for the full amount. They've also specified that you cannot put down your private principal residence as a guarantee, so your home, so you're never be required to put your house down.
Yeah, which I think that's a really important change, because at a time of, as I said before, of anxiety and worry, that's just, why would you want to put your home up during this kind of time? No. Okay, so is there anything else in terms of the CBIL loan? So is there anything else that they should know? Sorry.
Yes, one of the advantages of the bounce back loan scheme, just stepping back to that a second, is that although you have to be affected by coronavirus, that's really the only condition. You don't have to submit a business plan or a forecast or anything to demonstrate that your company was doing fine beforehand. However, with the coronavirus business interruption loan scheme, the CBILs, it is much more like a commercial loan that you might take out at other times. Mm-hmm. So the lenders have the authority to say yes or no, we're going to lend, we're not going to lend. You need to have a borrowing proposal.
Yeah.
Generally, you'll need to be able to demonstrate that prior to coronavirus, your business was healthy and would have been able to pay the loan back, and will still be able to pay it back in the current situation if you receive the money to help you through the current times.
Yeah.
They also, the interest rates for these are not fixed by the government, unlike the bounce back loans, which were at 2.5%.
Right.
So the interest rates can vary quite a bit depending on who you're speaking to and what your situation is. I have heard some high figures and some low figures. The highest I've heard is kind of in the double digits range, which is a lot.
I've heard similarly. So can you point people in the right direction of a coronavirus? I'm going to have to look at do you know what? I'm going to have to look. What is it? The coronavirus business interruption loan scheme.
The coronavirus business interruption loan scheme.
That's why I just call it CBIL, because it's so much, it rolls off the tongue, whereas the full name doesn't. Sorry, so I digress. Who can we put people in touch with to access the full loan scheme?
Yeah, the first point of call would be the British Business Bank website. So you can go on there, and similar to the bounce back loans, which were on gov.uk, you can put in kind of your details, basic information, and it will say, here are the lenders who can provide to you. Okay. You do make that, in this case, direct to the lender.
Yeah.
One thing that we do offer ourselves at Comera Professional is we are partnered with one of the lenders, Crest Finance.
Okay.
And we are able to offer a service where we can review business proposals, we can go through them, and essentially almost make the application on your behalf. So we would deal with Crest.
Okay, well that's really handy, because I think it would fill most viewers and listeners with dread, the preparation of this. I mean, like with any loan, obviously you have to put in some graft to get the, as you say, the loan proposal, the business plan, the management accounts together. But it's really helpful to have somebody like yourself and the team there at Comera Professional to help bring it together in a format that is going to be more acceptable, or as anticipated by the lender, and to try and fast track that through. Okay.
Also, just worth of note is some companies listen to this may have actually tried to do this previously, but potentially been turned down if they had access to commercial loan facilities separate to the coronavirus business interruption loan scheme.
Yeah.
The terms of small companies, for small companies, have actually changed recently. So we're finding some companies who previously may have been refused this loan can actually now access it. So if you try to previously have problems, it might be worth having another look.
Quick one. I don't know if you're going to know the answer before we move on, but if somebody has tried to, or maybe a business has got the CBIL loan in place, maybe they were, right half the blocks and kind of got that in place, but they would like to move that to the bounce back loan. Do you know if they can move their loan?
That is a very good question, actually. I'm not 100% sure of the answer. I'll have to find that out for you.
Yeah, because presumably you can't have both in tandem. You can't have a bounce back and a CBIL loan.
No, actually, I think you can transfer one to the other, although be aware that the bounce back limits are much lower, 50k.
Yes, yeah.
I will get a hard answer for that for you. Sorry, I think it's actually something we talked about previously, and I apologise.
Yeah, no problem at all. No, it's just a little bit confusing of which to go for. I mean, for me, if it's a lower amount that you're looking for, the bounce back loan is definitely the way to go, because it sounds like it's more straightforward. It's an online process, a bit more arm's length, quicker response.
Yeah, it's much quicker response as well. We're talking a few days rather than 10 weeks.
Okay, so that's a good one to look out for. But if you do need to borrow more, I guess the answer is talk to you guys at Comera Professional to help get the documentation prepared for it, and potentially Crest Finance can assist with that CBIL loan to help that process through. Okay. So some of the guys listening, or ladies, should I say, they're going to be self-employed. So much of what we've talked about today isn't necessarily relevant. So there's the self-employment income support scheme, another one that rolls off the tongue.
Yes.
Okay.
We haven't come up with a name for the acronym for that one.
No, self-employment income support scheme. So what's all that about then?
It's similar to the furlough scheme for employees, apart from it's aimed at self-employed individuals who are their own bosses.
Yeah.
It's also opened quicker than we expected. 13th of May is now the opening date for that one.
Right. Okay. So by the time people are listening, that will be out. So yeah.
Yeah. So this is for if you're principally a sole trader or working in a partnership, and you have to have been trading in the tax year 2018 to 2019 and intend to continue trading as well.
Yeah.
The details of this in terms of what you can claim are similar to the furlough. So it's 80% up to a maximum of £2,500.
Yeah.
And that's 80% of your average monthly profits.
Right.
3 years.
Okay. So
your PAYE will be your actual monthly profits as a sole trader.
Yeah.
And just to make it make a very important point, you can only claim this if your annual profits for the year were below 50k.
Right. Okay.
So it is aimed at smaller sole traders, individuals.
Okay. So who are basically paying themselves out of their. So the thing is, if they're paying themselves out of their profits, like what's left at the end of the month, how does this work? I'm not quite sure. I guess it depends on their accounting processes and how they're paying themselves, what they're paying themselves out of.
Yes. So this would be if you are paying yourself essentially out of drawings from the company.
Yeah.
So you have your profits each month, and you say, right, okay, that's now my money.
Yeah.
So you would have to submit some basic accounting records to HMRC. Your tax return would usually be sufficient to do this.
Uh-huh.
And then they'll be able to grant you 80% of those monthly profits, again to a maximum of £2,500 per month.
Yeah.
The one-off payment to you. I say one-off because it is done as a single grant covering 3 months. So rather than monthly payments of £2,500 or maximum £2,500, you would receive £7,500 in one payment, and that will cover your next 3 months.
Okay, and so
if you were claiming the maximum.
Right. So is that kind of going back to the same dates as the furlough? So is it backdating effectively to the furloughing date?
Yes, everything around the employment payments is being backdated because, of course, the virus struck everyone at the same time.
Yeah.
Similar to furlough, also worth noting that these are, again, pre-tax figures. So you would still be paying income tax and national insurance out of the grant money that you receive.
Yeah.
However, one big difference between this scheme and the employee furlough scheme is that you can carry on working.
Really?
Yeah.
That is really good to know. You can keep on working, right?
Yeah, so if you've got activity going on, if you're still got business coming in, you don't have to turn to your customers and say, sorry, can't help you now, I'm taking a
Well,
break.
yeah, well, that would be counterintuitive, wouldn't it? Let's be honest. Well, I think that's a sensible decision by a government, actually, to allow you to carry on to carry on. Okay, so how again? Maybe you touched on this. So sorry, I was getting quite excited about that last point. Where, how do they? So how do they apply? How do they go about it?
This is one that HMRC should be getting in contact with individuals about directly. They have a list of everyone who is self-employed. They'll know who is eligible for this.
Okay.
You can use, again, it's gov.uk to check your own eligibility criteria.
Yeah.
If you go on there and it seems like you're eligible, but you've not heard anything at all, then maybe just give the taxman a nudge.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
In theory, they should be contacting everyone and arranging the payments.
Okay. Good to know. And I guess they can always get in touch with yourselves amongst other kind of financial queries and so on, and look at that eligibility.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I realised that there was absolutely tons to take in, and I'm sure things change as well.
You mentioned earlier we're doing these free consultancy sessions. This is what they're designed for. So we can speak to an individual, a business owner, and say, right, here are the things that are relevant to you. Because not everything like this will be relevant to everybody, but everyone should have some form of support available. And our job in those hour sessions is to work out what that person can claim and how to go about it.
Okay, well, we'll make sure that at the end of the session today that we put up the Comera professional details, so that, you know, phone number and email, so you can reach out to the team there. And obviously that is a complimentary session, so, you know, don't hesitate to speak to James and the team. As I say, it is all quite complicated. Really get that people are kind of scratching their heads thinking, blooming heck, like, is it worth it? Is it worth all this hassle and effort to try and get my hands on this money? But the support is there, generally speaking. So if you're not sure which way to turn, you know, have a chat with the guys at Comera Professional, as I say. The other thing that they can do off the back of this, if they want the list of these things, is the Google HBXL financial support. And you'll see a page which summarizes all of these options. So that's HBXL financial support, and that should come up probably number 1 or 2 in your search engine for the list of all of these, and then you can reach out to James and the team. So, sorry, I'm looking at the things that I wanted to talk to you next about, James, because we've been chatting for ages. So,
there's a lot to talk about with the government support. It is changing all the time, and they're adding new things and refining them. Yes,
so I guess you guys will have your fingers hot, you know, on the pulse, and knowing what's happening. There's perhaps some more of a delay coming out to us lesser financial mortals.
We've got the news tickers going, keeping an eye on everything.
Yeah, great. So I guess that's the government support side of things. But on a general business level, I guess there's a few things that I think it would make sense for people to do now. And these are stating the obvious. They're, you know, business 101s, I guess. So sorry if you're thinking, crikey, we know all of this, shut up. Number 1, you know, keeping in touch with customers really regularly, whether you're at quoting stage, whether you were due to start the project at any point, or you're partway through. Keep dialogues open. Don't switch your mobile off just because you're not necessarily on site. Keep talking, keep reassuring, just being straightforward and honest about the situation. And I think a lot of customers are sympathetic and understanding, and just want to get it right as well themselves. So yeah, just keep on being professional, and keep on talking to them, and that includes obviously not forgetting about the future jobs, the future pipeline. There might have been some jobs that you're estimating before everything hit the fan. You know what I'm talking about, and you know, we need to keep things moving. So I think making sure that you're talking to those customers as well, just dropping them a line to let them know where you're at, taking the opportunity if you have a little bit of downtime. And I know as we're airing that things have slightly eased up for construction companies. You know, Boris Johnson has said construction firms, get out there but do it safely. So I guess, you know, things might be starting to move forwards. But these future jobs, if you need them quoting or if you need plans done, what have you, talk to the HBXL team, because we've got both the Estimator Express software to help you costing your projects, and we've also got the HBXL estimating service where we can take that pressure off you. If you need to desperately get back to site, do it, but give us your estimates. We can produce them for you. Similarly, if you need building plans for extensions done, our design service at HBXL can do that for you, or you can use the Plans Express software that we have. So take the time now to I guess to professionalize and keep talking to those future customers to try and win the work. It's going to get more competitive out there, I think. There are going to be some firms that, unfortunately don't survive the current situation. There's going to be opportunities for others. So, let's not get too doom and gloom. But I think maybe some clients are going to be sitting on their hands for a little bit thinking, should I invest in that project right this second, or should I let things play out a bit? So it might be a bit more competitive. So be the more professional firm. And we've got a session next week on doing that, how to premiumize your business and how to win the work. That's with Better Business Group. So diary that one. I guess focusing on good customer service throughout, keeping that going, and just remembering, stating the obvious, that things have been paused. They are slowly restarting. There are going to be opportunities that emerge from it. So there's me waffling on, but James, financial level, we'll get all serious now from your side. So, what other things can they be doing right now to help protect themselves?
I think a good takeaway from all of this is that, as you say, business has been paused, but it is going to be restarting soon, and when it restarts, it will restart, with a vengeance. So this is a very good time to sit down and take stock of what you can do to improve your business, improve your company, improve your processes, and really take full advantage of when things start to pick up again. So some specifics that might be worth thinking about is, do you have any bad clients that you work with that maybe you could take this chance to get rid of? People who are habitually paying late or not paying at all, causing trouble and generally being more pain than they're worth.
Yes, yeah, 80-20 rule there.
Yes, very much so. Have a think about your cash flow. Do you prepare any kind of cash flow forecasts? And these are really, really useful for a business. If you can sit down and say, right, here is what we're expecting to make next year, here's what we're expecting to do in terms of not only cash flow, but also profit and loss, then you've got a roadmap. You've got something that you can analyze down the line and say, right, did we achieve what we set out to achieve? If not, why not? What can we improve? If we did, what did we do right? What can we build on in the future? One good idea is to prepare more than one forecast, maybe a best case scenario, if everything comes through correctly and you get everything done on time and at the lowest cost, what will the result be? Also a worst case scenario, if you have delays, problems, issues with suppliers and customers, what will the impact of that be? And then you can kind of split the difference, have one in the middle, and that could be your likely scenario. And then you've got some information to work on, so you know what you can measure your performance against going forward, and again, how to improve it. A fairly obvious point, but one that always worth repeating, is to make sure you're reducing your costs.
Yeah.
Right now, when everything's on a bit of a slowdown, it's a very good opportunity to go through your costs and your accounts and see, right, is there anything here that we are paying for that we don't need, that we could maybe pay less for elsewhere? Maybe you're paying too much for your accounting services and need to something might be a little bit more competitively.
Yeah, shameless plug, but yes,
very, very much.
I guess we just kind of, in a business as usual kind of scenario, you just kind of get by, you're spending on various, and it's hard to find the time to take stock and say, okay, is what I'm paying for this worth it? And I think something even at HBXL that we found through this process, because obviously every business is the same, you're all having to think hard about what you're spending your money on, and what the government support is available. No one is immune, so we're all doing the same. And I think you start to see, well, actually, no, I'm not using X or Y, or that person hasn't been as helpful or productive as they could within the business. And things start to kind of emerge where you think, actually, no, I hate this expression about the new normal, but the new normal actually can be better in some ways. Things that you've been putting off decision making wise, or I just haven't got the time to even bother thinking about. Some of those cost savings emerge through this process, and you might never need to reintegrate them back in. They might actually improve your net margin as you move forward.
One thing we found in kind of previous economic slowdowns, this isn't the first one we've had in the last few decades, is that companies who take the time to sit and pause and reflect and really make the most use of any slowdown that they have in the short term are the ones who come out a bit stronger. You don't need to be a big 100 million listed turnover business to be able to have good processes and good best practice. Companies who do that will reap the rewards when things pick up again, and they will. This is only a small setback.
Okay. So we're thinking about that though. So with regard to cash flow, and that's quite a healthy process to go through to look at your expenditure. I mean, we'll talk management accounts in a minute, and I'm sure lots of firms will roll their eyes at that and think, blimey heck, we get to the end of the year and we see what's in the bank, and we get to give it a thumbs up or the thumbs down, which we don't recommend. We'll talk about that in a minute. But I guess going through the cash flow process, is that something that you can help firms with? Because you don't know where you're going to need to plug the gaps. Say you do a VAT deferral, you might be all right now, but in X months' time, using that expression again about something hitting the fan in a few months' time, a quarter or two, i.e. 3 or 6 months' time. So getting the finances in place now, even if things look okay today, perhaps you furloughed some staff and therefore finances don't look too bad. But as this is phased out, you might suddenly feel actually that the sales side isn't matching the overhead, and that gap is going to widen. So thinking about it now, not waiting till the worst case, I guess, would be my message. Obviously, as an operations director, I'm poring over spreadsheets and finance regularly, and I think that for me is a really, really important, is making sure it doesn't get away with itself. Look at it now, so you've got a bit of breathing space, and you can do it calmly with a clear head.
You don't want to be panicking during your cash flow.
No. So again, have a chat with James about that, and he can talk to you about how they can help with that. So I guess that leads us nicely onto the second section, which is about kind of finances more generally and going forwards. Some of this are kind of like accounting 101, so it's not really coronavirus kind of financial kind of assistance. This is some of the things that really we should all be doing and running a healthy business. But obviously it is going to become increasingly important because of the time that we're living in. And I guess you should be doing it forever, but things aren't going to be normal, are they, for quite some time? So extra important that we do it right now. So kind of from the top then, business modeling.
So this is it's a very important part of the process, at least I certainly feel it is. And people often think kind of business models as being like your annual account. It's something that's only relevant for larger companies or limited companies. It's not, it's relevant for everybody. If you have a business, ideally you should have a business model, so you should know what you're trying to achieve. It's similar to the cash flow forecast issue that we discussed earlier. Make sure that any models that you do, any forecasts, will cover various scenarios. So it's helpful to have one model and say, right, this is what we're trying to do, but you've got to think, right, what will happen if I have an unexpected cash flow issue in this month? What will happen if this customer doesn't come through? What will happen if I have extra customers in this month? Do I have the resources to actually deliver the work? So you've really got to be thinking about, it's essentially a risk assessment process.
Yeah.
Saying, right, what could happen in the future? What would the effect be? Can we cope with it? Now, certainly we didn't expect anyone to have a business model that included coronavirus, at least not. But you should certainly factor in the impact of this situation now.
Yeah, I guess one of the things that I'm thinking about, and we'll perhaps talk about it again in a little bit, but I perhaps should interject at this point. What I'm going to see happening is that builders' build programs are going to shift a little bit. And I don't mean just go back, but they're going to change and they're going to morph, because part of obviously the government advice with building firms going back into work is that they've got to do it safely, and no worker is obliged to work in an unsafe environment. And indeed, the health and safety executive is part of that whole kind of process and keeping an eye on things. And indeed, I saw yesterday afternoon, I think it was, Boris Johnson saying that there are going to be random spot checks on all businesses, including small businesses, that they're doing things to the best of their ability, or the most practicable as possible, in terms of getting people back safely. Big emphasis on that. So that is going to impact build programs. So that's going to mean that maybe we've got different trades on times at different times. So normally you might have, 2 or 3 trades all in the same building doing something at the same time, but that really can't happen. You're going to have to spread out the program a little bit. And I've seen numerous reports in construction press saying, it could add quite a chunk of time onto the build program, and how that affects your business model. If you're turning around projects, I don't know, an extension in 4 months, it could easily take 5 or 6 months. You might be able to manage it more carefully than that, more tightly. Again, shameless plug, use some of HBXL's project management software. We've got a product called Project Expert, which will help you with that. But in terms of costings, thinking about that and getting that into the business model, don't assume that there is a whole business as usual normal, that you can just keep ticking over. Things might take longer, and there might well be additional costs that people need to be thinking about, I guess, in that both cash flow actually and business model. Of
course, will that impact your quote price to the customer as well?
Yes.
They'll need to be making a profit to keep the business running.
Yes. And I guess if you've quoted already for a customer, but you haven't started, I think an honest dialogue about that with your client is required. There's a lot in the construction press about contracts, and we've got X date in the contract, and if we don't meet that deadline, there's a penalty, that kind of thing. But or even you've quoted X price, and now that's not going to be possible, because in order to keep the teams safe, you have to phase things differently. So it is more expensive to build, and not forgetting things like all the additional, I'm kind of going slightly off track here, but it's all about the business model. Your costs for things like, all the extra hand washing facilities, the hand sanitization, the signage on site, really making it clear about the 2 meter distance everywhere, the extra tape that you need to put around everyone to keep people 2 meters apart, the one-way systems.
Think about.
Yeah, there's a big cost associated with those. So having an open dialogue with your clients, whether you're midway through or you're going to be starting soon, and talking about the additional costs. And I really feel that if they're sensible, they are going to be understanding of that, because as a client, especially as a commercial client, they have a legal obligation to make sure that project is done safely. And if you can't legitimately say, I can do it safely and keep my people safe, then really it shouldn't be happening. Dialogue. Keep talking to customers. I was talking about that earlier, but important in terms of
make sure you're in touch. And people want reassurance as well. They
Yeah.
want to know their companies they're working with are still out there and still ready to help them.
Yes, yeah, and I think the current emphasis of government getting building firms back is about that they are I think they call it COVID-19 secure, and that they should have a policy and a process in place for this. Again, shameless plug, health and safety expert update this week for COVID-19 risk assessments, health and safety policy, and toolbox talks. But that aside, the costs have got to go in, get them in the business model. So I guess you can help with the business modelling, James, and the team.
Yeah, one of the services we offer is to review financial models, make sure everything is in there, has been done correctly. If there are any things that maybe have been overlooked, then we'll make sure that they're put in there and everything's very accurate.
Yeah,
we offer the same service in a kind of a backwards looking way as well, which is your management accounts.
Yeah.
So whereas your business model is looking at what's going to be happening in the next month, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months. Your management accounts are what's happened in the last month, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months.
Okay. Yeah.
It's very heavily advised to get some accountancy software to help with that.
Yeah, yeah.
Even if it's just you just put in your basic transactions and then we can decode them for you.
Yeah.
And that's something that we offer as well. I believe CIA is your accounting software, isn't it?
Yeah. That stands for Construction Industry Accounts, and it's a very well, as the name suggests, stating the obvious, it is construction oriented, because you need an accounting package that deals with the CIS kind of tax side of things. You need an accountancy package that will allow you to split your cost by materials, labour, and plant resources. Also, a system that will allow you to allocate costs to projects. So again, going back around to the additional costs of the coronavirus on building projects, you might want to split the costs of all the extra items that you're buying, such as extra PPE or the signage, etc., and split those across the projects. And Construction Industry Accounts allows you to allocate those costs, say one invoice, and split it across different sites. So yeah, that's a solution that we recommend. So management accounts then. I mean, obviously, HBXL, we do them monthly. Lots of companies, perhaps, eye roll. Oh my gosh, we would never do that. But I guess quarterly is better than annually. Getting to the end of the year, so management accounts is something that you can help with, as well as that business modelling.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
If you have access to accounting software but don't really know what to do with it beyond just putting in the basic invoice details, we can go through it and we can turn that into a monthly snapshot saying, right, this is your position, this is your profit for the year, this is your assets, your cash, and so on. Feed that back to you. Management accounts are very useful as an information tool.
Yeah. Okay.
Because they're not statutory reported accounts, like the kind of stuff that a limited company would send to Companies House. You can put them in a format that's useful to you.
Yeah.
There are certain restrictions on how official accounts have to be done, but management accounts, as long as the numbers are accurate, you can report that information however is beneficial for you as a company owner.
So it's going to help steer your decision making, isn't it? So your business model, as you said before, is the future case. What are we looking to try and achieve with different scenarios? Your management accounts are looking a month in arrears usually, or a quarter in arrears at push. But if you're looking at them a month in arrears, you can then make some quick decisions on what next. Did it go according to plan? Do we need to make changes? Do we need finance? Plugging back into cash flow. So those three things are very much linked, aren't they? Your business model.
Very much so, yeah. It's very helpful to be able to combine them. In fact, if you have a business model, leave some space to put the management accounts in as they get produced, and then you can compare what did we say we were going to do in, say, April. What do we actually do in April, and where's the difference?
Yeah, I think people would be quite surprised how costs and overhead kind of run away with themselves. The extra trips, well, not that it's quite as possible, under the coronavirus kind of shadow, but, the extra trips to different suppliers to pick up things, the extra fuel that's required, the replacement tools and so on that are needed, mid project, that kind of thing, and they all add up. And I think people will be quite surprised, maybe horrified even. They get to the end of the month, get the management accounts a month after, and like, blimey, really, we've got to get a few things under control here.
Well, that's the bit, is it might be potentially horrifying to see it first, but if you know, then you can fix it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Information going forward.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess that then links into the staying on top of costs, reviewing suppliers, reviewing payment terms, that kind of thing. Okay. So is there anything else on that kind of area that you wanted to kind of share, Richard? Not Richard, sorry.
Richard.
Sorry.
Richard is a colleague of mine who did a video of these last week for the
yes. Sorry, I'm clearly losing the plot talking about accounting.
We do look quite similar, actually. He's got slightly better hair than I do.
Not going to comment.
I think I'm taller. The only other thing that I consider raising as a point is we've talked about looking at your kind of business, taking a step back and saying, what can we improve? One thing that stretches to is even your business structure. If you're currently operating as a sole trader or a partnership, maybe now is the time to consider whether you should actually incorporate as a limited company.
Yeah.
There are pros and cons to this. Pros is that it gives you a certain shielding from any liabilities of the business. I won't go into legal technicalities, but basically it means that if the company does go into debt, that's not something you're personally liable for.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, apart from the cases of fraud or general naughtiness, which hopefully no one at home is considering.
Yes.
But it does give you certain advantages. It gives you more flexibility on your tax structure, for example. So you can potentially reduce your overall tax bill by becoming a limited company and setting up how you pay your own salary.
Yeah, yeah.
But on the downside, it means you have to publish your accounts. You probably will require an accountant for that, such as ourselves. And these will be put onto Companies House on an annual basis. But again, if you have good accounting software and someone who knows how to put it all together, that isn't a huge burden.
Okay, all right.
We find that often the tax benefits and the advantages do quite heavily outweigh the additional cost of having to submit those accounts.
And I guess
we offer a company setting up service. We can do that on your behalf if it's something you're interested in. So please do get in touch.
Yeah, I think I've thought in the last few weeks that if you weren't a limited company when the self-employed support schemes hadn't been announced, you realise that you're more at risk there. If you haven't been putting yourself through a salary through your limited company, that everything is not as transparent as it should be, and because it's not as transparent as it should be, I know there's probably builders out there thinking, right, well, I do things are slightly below the counter. I don't know what the right expression is, but if you haven't been showing your kind of earnings and your salary, then you're quite exposed when something like this happens, and if there's a second or third wave, God, I hope not, in terms of coronavirus, but not that I'm not a religious woman, but I really hope there's not a second or third wave. But having things in order, the support then has become available for you. So that, I guess, having the right structure for your company and everything being evidenced and shown properly through accounts and what have you makes it that bit easier.
It can have its benefits. I mean, it's not a cure-all for the current situation. I'd say it's more something to consider going forward when when this passes.
Yeah.
And thinking, is my company structured in the best way, the way that's right for me? And many people do find that they prefer staying as a sole trader. Absolutely fine. We'd recommend at least giving it some thought and seeing if it's something that you would be interested in, and if the benefits would be of benefit.
Okay, and the primary benefit, you just kind of recapping on that, you would think of them restructuring?
I'd say the primary benefit from a legal standpoint is simply that it does give you some shielding from the risks that are associated with owning a business. I mean, running a business at any time has an element of risk to it, particularly at the moment. Incorporating simply means that separates you from that risk.
Okay.
Actually, the best example is, as I mentioned, if that company, if the worst should happen and it owes a lot of money and goes under, that will generally speaking not be your debt.
Okay.
It will die with the business.
Yeah, well, that's...
If you owe money, you owe that money yourself, and that will follow you no matter what happens to the business.
Okay, so a bit of safety and protection there then.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess a couple of points from my side. So I think I've already said, so just quickly recapping. So reviewing quotations and estimates that you've already sent out. If you believe that there are going to be additional costs due to the coronavirus, such as the additional PPE, signage, additional hand washing, which is, really part of the central plank to going back safely. All the other things that you need to do in terms of helping, with the social distancing and what have you, they're all part of the project. They are chargeable. You might even consider, if you're a slightly bigger building firm, having a kind of like a nominated COVID-19 kind of coordinator for these measures, making sure that all the sites and the projects are complying with your health and safety policy on these points and are taking account of the risk assessment that you've done as part of your kind of COVID-19 return. So think about those costs, and they do need distributing across the projects that you're working on. They're not just your costs to be absorbed. Have those conversations with your clients and obviously build them into your future projects. Perhaps rethink your build programs going forward. That social distancing, as I said, might mean projects take slightly longer. So factor that in. Making sure that you're signing a contract, slightly counterintuitive, because you think, well, if it's not down on paper and things change, then I'm not necessarily held to account. But getting the right contract in place, whilst demonstrating to your client that you have your kind of COVID-19 secure program in place in terms of what your business is doing to limit
reassurance again.
Reassurance. And those two things together, you want to try and get a contract firmly agreed, try and get those deposits in place so that your client can't then suddenly backtrack for reasons that are not under your control. You don't want to be getting to a project and suddenly for reasons outside of your control, things aren't going ahead. So trying to nail it, now for when those projects should start. I think the biggest problem is for small firms, generally speaking, is getting paid. Often getting paid by a bigger company is quite tough. It might equally be tough with kind of your cowboy customer, inverted commas. I mean, it might not even be a cowboy customer. It's just everyone is in difficult times. So it might be that a final payment on a project, isn't forthcoming or something. So having an agreement in place, a contract in place, and stage payments, really important. I can't hesitate to kind of, emphasize enough getting stage payments in place so that you're not left unduly out of pocket, even if that means weekly or fortnightly payments. Perhaps don't let big build phases that cover many weeks go unpaid. Get some phase payments in so that you're not left with some massive, bill that's not been paid. And as I said before, knowing all your costs, every penny counts, really thinking through your margins and your overheads, your fuel getting to site, wastage, all those added extras, get it sorted. I know it's easy enough at the best of times. So, perhaps now is, I haven't got enough time to think about all this stuff, but it's really important. And it's a way to run a healthy business anyway, as I'm sure everybody listening knows. It's just finding the time, the brain space to do it. And before I kind of wrap up my side, I just wanted to add that my father was an older building company, also then became a small property developer. So I think he must have built, 400 extensions, something like that. I think that's the number. And, 80 or 90 new homes and up to 10 or 15 small homes on a site. And from all the way from the home extension business to the property development business, having a really trustworthy accountant and really regular check-in, so a monthly check-in with them and looking at your accounts made a massive difference. A good accountant is on your side. They're not just another official, trying to make your life difficult. A good accountant should be one that is partnered with you, walking with you as you run your business, month on month, side by side, giving you advice on how things look. Sometimes that's good advice. Sometimes, in terms of, it's always going to be good advice, should I say? But I mean, sometimes it's advantageous. You might not have seen these opportunities, whether it's kind of getting business support like we've been talking about today, or whether it's, the tax efficiencies that could be made. Just running things, more soundly, using them as a sanity check, if you will. So that's where obviously Comera Professional, come in very, very helpful. I've talked loads about Estimator Express and the other software. If anybody wants demos of those, nip to the hbxl.co.uk website. They can find out more on that, and they can trial the software. You've got 14 days on any of those products. But I'm going to finish, James, by handing you kind of back the floor. Tell us a little bit about Comera Professional Services and how you can assist small building firms. Because I think just a little recap on you, where you are in the country. Can you service the whole of the UK, or what? Tell us more.
Yeah, we're based in Bristol, down in the southwest, where it's currently a very, very nice day. It's always a pleasure. We do work nationwide. I mean, we're very keen to work with local businesses where we can, companies who know the area, and we can sort of sit down face to face and have a chat. But we can work anywhere in the UK. We can always work remotely, as we're currently doing. We do offer quite a range of services. So on my side, it is the accounting side of things, principally accounting and business advice services. Mm-hmm. So it's from the very kind of the dry legal requirements, like doing your annual limited company accounts and your corporation tax returns,
Yeah.
through to, as we mentioned, reviewing financial models. We can assist with the with applications for loans, including the coronavirus interruption loan scheme, as you mentioned.
Yeah. Yeah.
We also do accounting services for individuals, so maybe your personal tax returns. If you do want to set up as a company, we can assist with that. And we can provide more generalized business and company advice as well, like looking at the situation and saying, right, here are some areas where you can potentially make improvements, have more robust processes.
Yeah, yeah.
Separate to what I do, which is the accounting side of things, we also have a financial advisory department for individuals, which is much more about planning for your retirement, your future, all the things that you need to think about as you go through life. That's performed by my colleague Chris Cohen.
Yeah.
So we can really help across the entire spectrum of financial and professional needs, really. We have also help with marketing, HR systems, all kinds of things.
And presumably, in terms of the personal finance situation, they could have a separate session with your colleague Chris, up to an hour, kind of having a chat around, their individual financial situation as well, separate to talking to yourself.
Yes, yeah, and what we find with a lot of people we work with is they want to really use all of our services. It's very much a one-stop shop. So
yeah,
you have business accounts on one side being looked after by me, and then you as an individual, as a business owner, your future looked after by Chris.
Yeah, okay. So that's the free one-to-one power hours to HBXL customers. If you go to the HBXL website, so that's hbxl.co.uk, in one of the drop-downs is a section called Partners. This is Comera Professional we're talking to today, and within there you can book your power hours on these different subjects that we've been talking to today. And also, obviously, you can book your online demo on the software side if you would like to look at any of the software, including the Estimator Express and the accounting software construction industry accounts. So, James, thank you. We've covered a mammoth amount of ground. We have gone over our hour. This is like a power hour and 20, I think. So guys listening, thank you for if you got to the end, thank you for paying attention so long and listening. But it's been a really
please get in touch with any specific questions. We're happy to help.
Great. Well, I'll make sure that your contact details and that of the Comera professional team come up at the end of this video, which will be any moment. So yeah, jot down their details, viewers, listeners. But if not, call the HBXL team and we can put you in touch with James and the crew directly. So thank you, James. I'm enthused about accounts now. There is hope for.
That's what we're here for. Yeah, everyone excited.
Great stuff. Okay, well, I'm going to sign us off now, James. So I'll say goodbye and we'll speak to you soon. All right. Thank you very much. Cheers.